I have a question about your process on how you select the hotels that you want to acquire. Is there a list of requirements or qualifications for the properties that you have?
Yes. And this is going to sound very Jay, because if you should not be surprised at what I'm about to say, if that makes sense.
All right.
What I've decided to do, because again, it's what, in my opinion, would make sense, is I've hired a person who apparently, because who knew, but what she does is help individuals become hotel owners.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
So remember what I've said this multiple times. You imitate before you innovate.
Yes.
So yes,
nice.
The answer to your question is yes, there are requirements. No, I cannot repeat them for you yet. And
okay.
Why? Because I'm imitating before I innovate. That's why. So as I continue to go through the process, though, I will continue to share information. Absolutely.
Oh, this is awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's what I do. What I want to do is that I want to give you guys a measurement, a tool that I like to use as a measuring stick towards, am I making progress or not? And I like objective tools because when they're subjective, our emotions can be fickle and play in the way and say, no, I have been working hard, right? And all of these things. Now, this is not some GAP approved financial tool. It's more of a performance metric for yourself. And I'm gonna walk you through it, and I'd like you to do it simultaneously. Some of you who have been around for a while, you have seen this. I just want to make sure though that everyone's on the same page. All right, so I'm gonna go to the calculator because that's like how I do things. So I'm assuming you can see the calculator, is that correct? And it's large enough and all that this time?
It is for me.
All right, well, if it is for you, then we're good.
Well, I did just get new glasses, so.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But it's fine. Yes.
Yeah, got it. So here are the steps, right? In terms of how you use this metric, right? How I like to use it anyway. So there's two parts to it. The first part is think about last year's revenue, last year's income, last year's whatever, or even last quarter, because you can break it down to the quarter as well. So for the sake of this example, let's say your last year's revenue was $100,000 total. Okay. Ask yourself this question: of that $100,000, how much of that $100,000? We're talking the top number, not after taxes, none of the complicated stuff, the top number. Keep it easy and simple. How much of that $100,000 that you received was from assets, not your labor, from assets? What do I mean by that? The income that you received from a short-term rental location would be income from an asset. The dividend you received from a stock would be income from an asset. The royalty payment you received from a songwrite you purchased that's income from an asset. And I want you to come up with a percentage. Now, when I first did exercises, or this particular exercise, I had 0% of my income from an asset, right? It's just a measuring stick so that you now know where you are, okay? So, and if it's at 0%, then that's fine, because all you're gonna do is take the amount of income. So let's just say, for the sake of this example, that you had $30,000 come in from assets, but you had $100,000 total. You're gonna take 30,000 divided by 100,000. That's gonna give you 0.3. Then you multiply by 100, and that's gonna give you 30, thus 30%. Therefore, 30% of your picture is now coming from assets. That's the progress. So we're trying to measure your financial progress. So some might even say that this is a measurement of your financial literacy as well, because you can tell how it's changing, because it is just a simple shift of pattern of where your income come from, so that you can put yourself in a completely different situation. All right.
So what would be an example of revenue that comes from your labor?
Revenue that comes from your labor would be a consulting fee, would be going to an actual job, would be let me think about your life, Sarah, right now. So from what I know, all the income that I know of for you is actually you would be at 100%.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Someone paid you like a one-time thing to do something for them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So from what I know of your income, you would be at 100%, which is the goal. Okay. Which is a part of the goal, is to make the percentage of your total income picture as much of it as possible, because now that means you've got more freedom for your choices during the day. I'm assuming that's what you've been experiencing to some degree. Yes?
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I'm talking about. So that's what we want. You want to slowly over time shift, but we also have to measure, are we making progress? Okay. Now, so that's it. Any other questions, anyone, on that?
Angela?
Question?
Angela, you remembered?
No, I'll skip that question. But the question to this, difference between revenue or income, and then someone had mentioned like your profit and loss statement. So like I just started last year, and yes, I had gross revenue, but I also have company debt.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm not trying to measure anything other than the source of your revenue or the source of your income. And I'm using those words interchangeably right now.
Okay,
All
gotcha.
I'm trying to do is measure the source, because if we can begin to get your source of revenue to come from assets, that is step number one in making this whole thing happen. Because that part of the challenge, kind of like what Darren was saying earlier, is he's tired of his job, and it's because because the source of his revenue or income is his job, where he has to physically go, if that makes sense. And I am working to train your brain or retrain your brain to think, build an asset first, then use the income from that asset to go do X, Y, and Z. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, John.
Alicia had a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Jay. So what about partnerships that you encounter from your short-term rentals? Like you get a percentage of a personal chef's business that you bring into,
That's top line, Pat. That is in the correct category, because you didn't actually make the food, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That you set up a system, and that system brought you money.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about here. For most of us, you set up a system, and that system brought you money. You didn't have to go down to the well, put the bucket, and roll it back up, and then like, yay. No, the system brought you money.
Okay. So that wouldn't be, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. That wouldn't be in that assets. It would be. Okay.
Would be.
Okay.
Yes. Because you didn't make the food. You set up the system one time, and you audit your system, you maintain your system, but the system's job day to day is to bring you money, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Okay.
That's affiliate commissions. That's what I'm talking about. Yep. That type.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. And you just want to measure it in percentage, because if you're measuring it in percentage, you can then see your own progress, right? You can see your own progress. And, everybody starts at 0%. Okay. So just know that. It's not like oh man, I'm at 0. Everybody starts.
But Jay, doesn't the income itself, the income amount itself, impact that measurement? So for example, if you're 100% labor and you're moving into SDR, so let's say you're at 100,000, and when you start with the SDR, you're at 30,000. So in the beginning, you're going to drop, right? So that's not necessarily progress, right? Because you're coming down on the actual amount itself.
Not necessarily, because it's not saying one to the exclusion of the other. Because just because you created $30,000 of income from your short-term rental business doesn't mean whatever created the $100,000 went away. And I'm not saying that it should. Like D shouldn't yet, quit his job because he still needs that. You may still need that other source of income. I'm trying to get you to add a source of income or at least shift. So if you're going to add $30,000 of income from your short-term rental business and you were previously at 100, I would still want you to have 70 from the other source. So I don't want the 100. I don't want that top line number to necessarily go down.
Go down. Okay.
I want you to be aware of what percentage of your total pie is coming from sources that are not connected directly to your labor. By bringing awareness to this, it will change your habits on a day-to-day basis.
Makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. Okay.
Karen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Karen, and then Lewis.
Hey,
Okay.
Jay, just to clarify further, since we're using profit first and we're putting a portion aside into acquisitions, are we including that acquisitions amount in our number? I assume yes. Okay, so it doesn't matter what we're doing with it, we're just including it all.
Yes, right.
Got
Correct. This has nothing to do with what you actually do with the dollars. It just has to do with the source of the dollars. That's all we're trying to figure out right now.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Next.
Question about the chef as well, because I've used a chef in the past. What's an example of a percentage or what you charge the guests, or is it a commission you're getting from the chef? That's probably either to you or Alicia.
Well, it could be an affiliate commission. You could just mark up their order. So for example, if you and the chef have prearranged that, hey, this is going to cost $50 to deliver this and you charge the guest $75, there you go. That would be a simple way of doing it. Or they could order direct with the chef. They process and handle the order fulfillment, and then the chef sends you a check. That could also do it. The mechanism by which it's done isn't as important as that you do something.
Gotcha. I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I just want you all to be consciously aware of it. And if I don't say this, you won't be. And if you don't have a way to measure it, you'll never change, because it'll feel like I'm making progress. Well, let's see what the numbers say, right? Because this is something you can measure quarter to quarter, year to year. What percentage in the last 90 days of my income came from assets? Good question, right? So